Hi everybody, good morning. I'm Zuraihi Abdul Ghani, the Chief Executive Officer of CIDB IBS. Today, I will host a podcast session, episode 7, live streaming at CIDB TV and CIDB IBS official channel. Our streaming podcast today is a live in conjunction with International Construction Week 2025. Our topic today is the future of construction and through the modular and construction technology. Right. As we all know, the modular construction is one of the method of construction being used in all over the world, especially in European country, US, and as well as in China. Right. So there are so many modular player in all over the world, and one of the player in Malaysia, which is a Scandinavian IBS, has operated their business in Penang since 2019. Their product has been certified by CIDB Malaysia through the Construction Industry Standard 24. This is an IBS assessment and certification product. So today, coincide with our topic, we have two panelists from Scandinavian IBS or SCIBS. We'll further explore about their modular technology and how it will be beneficial to our construction industry. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Tuomas Oijala, the Chief Operating Officer and Deputy CEO of SCIBS. How are you, sir?
Very good. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Mr. Tuomas have more than 15 years of international experience across Finland, Sweden, China, Denmark, and Middle East. He also a Chief Executive Officer for Spinova Finland's Senior Vice President, Cone Corporations, Managing Director, Cone Denmark, and as well as Director of Cone Greater China. Our second panelist, Dr. Patrik Jensen. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. Thank you
Right.
for being
Yeah.
here.
Thank you for becoming a panelist today. Right. Dr. Patrik Jensen is a Chief Technology Officer of SCIBS. Patrik doctoral research was conducted in Luleå University of Technology, focusing on development of modular and industrialized construction system. He subsequently built a core engineering and design team at SCIBS, responsible for developing SCIBS modular building system and produced comprehensive shop drawing, on-site and production documentation. Welcome for both of you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
How you feel, Malaysia?
It's a very, very amazing place to be. There's so much
Yeah.
energy, especially when we're coming from
Yeah,
Northern
sure.
Europe, where it's slow and cold.
Yeah. All right. Without further ado, I would like to ask Mr. Tuomas first. Right. How you describe the current state of modular construction in Malaysia and where is it headed? Perhaps you may start with the historical about SCIBS, how it started in 2019.
Absolutely. And I mean, before I get to the history of SIBS, or SIBS as we like to call it for short, that I think it's just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and also to participate in ICW this week. We are, Malaysia is home for SIBS, and very important to be here to meet the key players, and I think there's a lot of potential here as well.
Right.
When it comes to SIBS, so actually if you think about the state of the Malaysian construction industry and why SIBS is here, I think it's very connected. As you said, there's a lot of modular building around the world, but many of the places actually, for example in Europe, the modular construction is happening quite close to the site. So there's obvious benefits to that. But our founders actually looked around, to see where's the best place to have manufacturing. Where do you have a robust supply chain? Where do you have competitive suppliers and players?
So Malaysia is
And,
one
and
of them.
Malaysia is really the hotspot for
Yes.
that. And I think that's a good answer to what's the state of the industry here. There's really a great supply chain here and a lot of innovative players. So that's why the first pilot factory or prototype factory was made in 2018.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because that was successful and we had our first successful projects, then with that one, then the decision was made to invest in a much larger factory than that was open in 2022.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of, I think it ties nicely together to how Malaysia is as an industry and why SIBS is here in the history. as you said, when we had we had a little chit chat before we came in, that of course a lot of the modular companies or IBS companies in Malaysia are producing to export out of Malaysia.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe kind of the next point on the agenda, right? So
Yes.
the industry here is quite developed and a lot of good players. And then perhaps where we kind of are excited ourselves to see this going is actually finding opportunities to use our solutions inside Malaysia as well.
Yeah. So you look that the opportunity is quite good in Malaysia, right?
Definitely see that the Malaysian market has scale and has the types of projects where our system works, right? Because our system is not just any old IBS system. It's really a modular prefab, fully furnished product. So our customers are the ones that really value speed and quality and a robust production process. And
Correct.
I think there will be projects like that in Malaysia as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I would like to ask Dr. Patrik. Right. Dr. Patrik, how does SIBS leverage construction technology to enhance quality control, speed of delivery, and cost efficiency in your modular project?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that has very many levels, I would say. I would say that you can leverage basically all of what you're stating in your question: speed, cost efficiency, quality of the end product.
Yeah.
But and it basically it depends on where the market is. So basically we talk about IBS in different ways. I usually talk about 2D panelized system, or as the SIBS system that has a 3D volumetric system. So the 3D volumetric system, if you look at, for example, markets like Sweden or Japan, it's basically to enhance quality and basically build faster. So you can basically have do things on site while you do things in the factory meanwhile, and that reduces the end cost, and it also speeds up the work. But you could also have it in basically that you need it in a very quick manner, and then it's, for example, like when we did a big project in NEOM where the speed was the most crucial part, then that's
how long will it take to complete the project?
and that took I think it was 13 or 14 months. It was like over 2,000 apartments, over around 3,500 modules, plus around 2,000 open structures. So it was a enormous modular 3D volumetric project. So, but so it basically it all depends. But I would say that how we leverage it is that we basically by having it go faster, we decreases the end cost, and we by doing it off-site, we can enhance the quality by controlling the process.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you. Right, we heard about the benefit of the using IBS or modular construction in the particular project, right? So, Dr. Thomas, I want to ask you. SIBS has been a key player in modular construction. Could you share a flagship project that best represent your innovation and approach?
Yeah, I was actually I'll share two because I think it's impossible not to. But the first one is actually what Patrik was just talking about.
Okay.
So the project in Saudi Arabia in NEOM, it was actually, to our knowledge, the biggest modular project in the world ever.
All right.
So that was delivered by SIBS, completed not too long ago. So there's a little over 2,200 apartments or beds.
That's a lot.
It's quite a big project, and as Patrik said, it was just over a year from when the project started to when it was finished. And of course, if you can imagine doing that any other way than modular, I think it could not have done in that time.
That was completed in what year?
Sorry?
It was completed in
Basically, the bulk of it was completed end of last year.
End of last year, right?
Yeah, and there's still other projects, being finalized there as well. And of course, it really requires an end-to-end good planning and
Yeah,
good
of course.
execution.
Yes.
I think that's really probably one of our flagship projects. But then the other thing that I think is very important to highlight is that we've delivered a large volume of projects in Sweden. That has been the home market, and that's where we started. So we were actually originally in the property development ourselves. And I think that's very important because when you have an innovation like we have, very often, you need to put your own money into it first to
Yeah.
prove that it works. And the people who started SIBS were smart enough to realize that. They had the capital to do it. But that's not the cool part. I think the part that we're proud of is that actually those properties that we developed in Sweden, we have sold them to big institutional investors, which attests to the fact that the quality of the product and the value of the product is something that then people want to invest in.
All right.
And I think that's a very key part of how you make this kind of business work. And when we think about Malaysia and other countries as well, that it's all about the business case for the investor.
Correct.
Whether it's about speed or cost or quality, at the end of the day, there needs to be somebody who sees the value, and that's why I think the Swedish projects, even though they're more normal in terms of being residential living, they're not fancy, huge developments. That the fact that we're able to get them to be sold to institutional investors is something we're very proud of.
Yeah. So most of the project is a residential project. Am I right?
Yes, I would say that's the focus. It definitely was in residential projects, mainly rental projects in Sweden. But if we think about internationally where we see our product is most suitable, it's in these kind of rental projects or residential projects. It's in student housing, staff accommodation, hotels.
Staff accommodation.
So, but basically everything is about living. That's
modern
living at scale. That's
Yeah.
where we need to be helpful. So,
Yeah, correct. This is part of the modern method of construction, right?
yep.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
besides that, Saudi Arabia and Sweden, is there any other country that you supply, or you got a project from other country?
No, this is a very good question. So in the summer we signed our first contract to deliver in the United
really?
Kingdom.
Okay.
So we will be delivering a rather large residential project in London.
Okay.
And we are investing a lot in building a team in the UK. We see massive potential there and a lot of need for our kind of product. But we are unique because we are the only one who has a big factory outside of the UK. Most of the other players are based there, so we are
you
quite.
plan to going to build a factory in UK?
No, we will continue from the one here. We are very proud of the Malaysian plant. Then we actually just yesterday published news that we are delivering first project to Australia.
All right.
And we have many more in the pipeline there as well. I think there's some good places in Southeast Asia. And I mean, for us, it's more a question of where to start and how to prioritize. I think the need for modular or volumetric is quite high in many countries where time is money.
Yep.
And where labor resources are not so abundant. Those places, they're really hotspots for us.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. Okay. I think we wanted to ask. I want to ask Dr. Patrik. SIBS is known as a precision manufacturing approach, right? Could you walk us through the factory to site process from design to installation?
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
try to make it quick.
Yeah,
Otherwise, this
sure.
is my kind of a lovable
Favorite topic.
favorite
Exactly.
topic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, what you basically industrialized house construction or building is basically that you standardize. You need to standardize the system, and depending on what type of product you are to develop and to produce, you standardize the system in different ways.
All right.
SIBS building system has been standardized on a generic point of view, so that we can accommodate a lot of variance. So that has been and that's the key thing with SIBS, and that actually divides us quite a lot from other suppliers that often starts with a standard product, and then they try to make that product so that they always have a continuous flow of that product.
Right.
But it's quite hard to have a standard balance.
Okay.
So what SIBS did was that we basically looked into instead what are the different criteria of our portfolio of product that we need to enhance. And by doing that, we could build a generic building system and then work with basically configuring the different projects.
Okay.
So the start of everything is to make this the building system, because when you do that, then you can set up a very streamlined production system for it. So basically building fixturing, building machinery, automate,
Okay.
and build standard processes around how to make an efficient production. So it starts from the design, where we have the set of rules and constraints. What type of buildings can we do? And it's very broad. It's so many variants that we can accommodate in the system, so that it basically becomes impossible for a human being to control this. So what we do then is that we have used automation tools such as configurators, built ICT tools that can basically push out drawings for shop drawings. And from there we can basically populate the manufacturing process and then build it as like an car production, where you basically have 47 stages in the continuous flow for building the modules.
Okay.
So the next step is then that you can transport these 3D volumetric,
Okay.
already prepared with kitchen, bathroom, and even furniture in some
Oh,
projects.
it's been built inside.
It's all inside,
All
so
inside.
it's already
Right.
already finalized.
Okay.
So when we go to site, we have prepared the foundations,
Yeah.
and then we are ready for assembling the whole building. And we basically assemble a module in 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh,
So we
that's
can
very
basically,
fast.
we mount about around 15 to 20 modules if everything is running as it should.
Okay.
And it's often the supply chain to get the lorries on time
Okay.
to that is the hindrance of the speed.
Right. What about the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system?
They are all integrated in the module from the factory.
Right.
So we have a plug and play system for
Oh, so
many
like
of
plug
this.
and play.
Yeah.
Right.
So all the hard work is moved from the
Yeah.
construction site to
So-
the
Yes.
factory, basically.
Yes.
So
That's
what
the
we
point.
can do here is that we can basically have skilled workers that we can control on each of these positions in the factory. And by doing this, we basically have control, and the quality becomes higher in this way. And we also we are really certain about the amount of time we need for
Yeah.
building
Yes.
the modules.
Yeah. Normally, how much is how much is workers you need to install it?
Installation is basically, we have a team of 10 persons doing the
10%.
10 person.
10%.
So basically 3 to 4 people are on the ground
Right.
preparing for the lifting,
Okay.
and then we have the rest of the team, 6 persons,
Okay.
are on the top level, assembling, preparing, and
Yeah.
finalizing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very less
This
manpower.
Yeah.
this is with one crane, and
Yeah.
it's some projects we have several cranes,
Okay.
and then we can multiply this. So in the Neon project, we were basically assembling around 50 modules a day.
15.
50.
50. Wow.
You need that kind of speed, of course.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need kind of speed.
Yeah.
So this 50 module in one day.
Yes.
In one day.
Yeah.
All right. So using the crane to pull it out and to install it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
To Mr. Thomas. Right. The modular construction is often since it's a game changer. Right. What are the key advantages that developers or client gain when choosing SIBS modular system over conventional method? I mean the difference between your product and the other conventional system.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's hard not to continue from where Patrick left off because, you know, I spent quite a long time in the construction industry myself, more on the supplier side, and I can't remember any project where we weren't late because somebody else was late and that caused another delay, and you know, you have so many surprises and so much waste that happens at site, and then the final quality of the product that the customer gets is also subject to, you know, a lot of individual people's decisions and behavior at the construction site. So if you then kind of take that back to what Patrick was just discussing, you know, you take the whole construction of the building and you put it into a factory controlled environment where you have quality control checkpoints, you have you have supervisors, you have more trained people because they do the same job over and over. I think it's kind of obvious that one of the benefits is just that you get a much more reliable and robust product. But I would also say something that we actually quite often forget to talk about is that from a construction company's point of view, the budget of the project should be much less risky because you've done so much of the costing based on, you know, the agreement from us to the customer instead of having all these trades that try to make variations and things like that. So that's actually something it's the hidden cost of the waste at site that's often not discussed very much. Then of course the other is just the speed, as Patrick said. I think that's every single customer we talk about, the speed is important, but then it depends on why is it important. So for some it's just, you know, that you know, if you're in London, you know, the financing costs and getting rental in earlier, you know, it's kind of quite clear that, you know, that's a big part. I would say then when we're more in these like big staff accommodation projects like in Saudi or what we're seeing in some other countries, it's more about, you know, there are certain commitments that authorities have to, you know, fulfill because they need to grow a certain part of the city, or if somebody builds a hotel and they need staff accommodation quickly, it's not about, you know, financial cost savings, it's about you need the workers to come there and live to make the operation happen. But so quality and speed, and I would say of course then the cost part is something we are also definitely going for, that we too often see that modern methods of construction are much more expensive and then you just get the speed, and I think we want to make sure that kind of the cost is also under control, but again that the hidden cost of construction is not going up. So, you know, in any construction product it's very typical that you get 30, 40, 50% cost overrun because of waste and variations, and that's something that would be quite different than, I think those are the main points.
What about the, you got a project in Saudi Arabia previously. What about the approval process? You have a difficulty to get an approval process from the other country. I mean, to comply with those requirements to certain country. What about the process? I mean, the approval process from that particular.
Patrick can probably talk more about that, but I mean, it's definitely a big investment to go into a new country because, you know, even small changes in the code might require us to make changes in the manufacturing, and often the local authorities are used to construction in traditional way. So a good example is that many countries, you know, they want to have the plumber check the plumbing installation at site. And of course we're doing it in the factory, so you have to kind of bridge the gap. Okay, what are we doing? One country we agreed that the plumbers can actually come to the factory and certify there, and then we actually have quality control so we can send the pictures of everything we do and they will certify the building. But it's definitely a big investment, but I think that's also then, once we have done it, we are quite competitive because not many companies have been able to do that. So that's the point. I don't know if you want to add something to this.
Maybe one to
I
add.
think you're spot on, Thomas, when it comes to it's an investment. Basically you have the building system, and then you have to do the alterations so you're able to cope with that market code also and those regulations. But as Thomas say, when you have done that investment, you can then push out a numerous of a project within that country, so you have increased the market, and by doing this you basically have much more utilization of the factory. You can basically you can grow it.
As an example, in the UK market, we recently, or not, it's already a few months ago, we did quite a large-scale fire test of our system. So we built a small building, basically 8 modules, and
You need
did
to
the fire
build. You need
test.
to build a model, a sample model.
Yeah, we had to ship to the test lab in the UK,
Yeah.
and they burn it for a few hours and make sure that it's
How
structured.
many hours is the minimum requirement?
And then
2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
2
So they-
hours rating in
They
that
stopped
one.
the test after 2 hours
Yeah.
because nothing happened. So that's a good.
That's a very good.
Patrik has designed a
test.
good system. Yes.
Yeah.
But the point is that there, when we told customers that we have done the fire test and it's certified and everything, to most of them it was quite impressive because most of the foreign or imported modular companies have not been able to do that. So that's just a good example of all the things that you have to go
So
through.
only your product can achieve that requirement.
Definitely.
Wow.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be working there. So
sure.
it's.
Right.
But that was a big thing, of course, because that fire test can be used in a lot of places, and I think any modular or IBS company is going to have to go through those tests and really kind of work with the
Yeah, of
local
course.
authorities
Yeah.
together. So it's a
Yeah.
lot of work, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Because in Malaysia, we do have our certification as well. So those products in Malaysia also need to be certified. In order to be certified, there's one test need to be done, which is the fire-rated test.
Yeah.
And a minimum 2 hours requirement by the fire brigade department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to comply this, then only you can get a certification from them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
most of the product in Malaysia, I would say, if I may share, those products need to achieve this requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for the fire rated.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's a good information that we get from both of you here. Right. I have one question for Dr. Patrik.
Yeah.
Right. From your perspective, what role does digitalization, such as, that building information modeling, BIMs, automation and data integration, right, play in scaling modular construction in Southeast Asia specifically?
Yeah, I would say that this is a really important topic due to that. If you look at any other industry, we are basically behind what's been done in many other industries. So building information modeling, if you look at Stanford, they define it as, or Fisher and Kunz, they call it basically 3 steps in building information modeling, where the first step is basically that you build a 3D model.
Yeah.
The second step is that you add in information for the model, so basically components, what type of structural analysis, etc. And the third level is what they name as automation. And automation, basically design automation, as we are talking about here, that has been ongoing for, I would say, basically much longer when it comes to mechanical industries, such as automotive industries, such as but what we see is that that's demand to have all the product, basically build a 3D mock-up before you actually put it on the production line. Because if you're not 100% sure that it can be produced and that you have all the components, that you have control of the supply chain, then you can't produce in a factory environment. So I would say that that's the starting point going into industrialized construction, is to have control of the BIM model or the product model, or what we call it.
I'm sure you have your own team in factory in Penang to conduct this thing,
But
the coordination for this building information modeling, right?
Yeah, so we have a set of team both in Scandinavia and in Malaysia,
Okay. Both.
where we basically we call it the SIBS design team,
Okay.
where we have the programmers that build the design automation tool and set the rules and constraints. They are located in Sweden, Scandinavia.
Right.
And we have a team working closely with the factory also in Malaysia.
Okay.
So, but we work together because you need
yeah.
to develop the
Yes, of
system
course.
together, and we need to all the improvements from the factory and how you update the mechanical equipment in the factory need to go into the digital tools that produces these 3D models for the buildings. So it's an. I could talk about this quite a long time, I would say, because I think this is a really interesting topic, and it's. I read and I have wrote a lot of articles regarding this. So that was my main topic as when I did my PhD. Is basically how to control the information flow, and what is very interested in industrialized construction is that you need to push all these rules and constraints for the building system to the early phases of the design. So by doing that, you have control from the early, basically tender phases to the final building.
Of course. When you're talking
digital
about
twin.
digital twin. When you're talking about this IBS or modular construction, it must be start from the inception, from the design stage, conceptual design, right? And at the end you can get the benefit using this product, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. If you don't design, let's say you have a 2D panelized system, then you're quite free to basically have which spans you want. But if you work with a 3D volumetric, you need to control how you're gonna ship it to the site. So that will put constraints on the design in the early phases. So if you don't have that in mind in the early phases, you might disqualify a 3D volumetric system. But if you have that in during the early phases, concept design, then you basically can route it to become very streamlined and become a very good 3D volumetric system. So that's one of the key ingredients that SIBS has worked with, is to how to start in the early phases to make sure that we can produce it correctly.
Can you share with us what is your amount of production per day at your factory, sir?
As we have run in one shift around 6 modules per line.
6 modules per line?
Yeah.
How many lines you have?
We have 5 lines.
5 lines.
And if we go up to 2 shifts, we have produced 10 modules per line. So around 50 modules per day we produced as a maximum.
You mentioned about 50, right?
Yeah, and that copes with that. You need to balance flow. So if you are to producing 50 modules a day, you need to assemble 50 modules a day.
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise, you build storage somewhere.
Yeah, you need some space to store it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good information that we gained today. Yeah. Right. Okay, I have one question. Perhaps Dr. Patrik or Mr. Tuomas can answer this question. Right. What are the biggest challenges SIBS has faced in promoting the modular solution in this region, right? And how you address them? Yeah, this is when we're talking about the IBS or modular construction in this region, as compared to European region or European country, I must say that in our Southeast Asia is very quite the usage of a modular construction is quite low, right, in the construction. So how you address this in terms of your perspective? Maybe perhaps that Mr. Tuomas can answer the question first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I think that the challenges in the different regions are not so different.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, kind of the laws of how good construction works are quite similar. What Patrik mentioned is actually probably, because everybody talks about financing or cost or this or that, but what Patrik mentioned is maybe kind of one level deeper, which is that to do modular, especially volumetric modular construction, you really have to have an end-to-end integration. You have to have a good plan from the beginning, and you have to have the balancing of the supply with the supply chain, because when you do a modular project, it's a great project in the end, but you have to have a good plan in the beginning, otherwise you can't do it, right? I mean, once you place the order to the factory and the factory starts to produce, you have to make sure that was the right design.
Yeah. at the first place.
And I mean, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but the reality is a lot of construction is quite last minute, quite a lot of ad hoc.
Yeah.
People change their mind and things like that. And I mean, that all kind of obviously makes it not as practical to do this kind of factory production. So what needs to change, and what I think is already changing, is that of course we need to be better at educating the market on our system, but also that we need to have partners who actually have, let's say, power in the market to define how things work. So we should work with architects who can specify buildings early on, work with construction companies who want to do repeat business. And it's not only about SIBS. I mean, all the IBS companies should be thinking like this, that kind of how do you get into projects much earlier? How do you create more long-term partnerships and get repetitiveness into production? Because doing things ad hoc and last minute, then usually it becomes too difficult to do a modular project then. So I think that's one thing. Maybe Patrik can add some other points.
Maybe Patrik can add some more.
I think you're spot on there when it comes to that. You need to think in long term. Industrialization is all about long term, making people working in team for and gradually make improvements. So that comes for basically you need to think in another term. Instead of just this project, you need to see it as more of a continuous building of new projects and evaluating the solutions and then improve them. So that becomes a really and you can only do that if you work in long term, not changing the GC for every time and so on. So it's a new mentality. Industrialization of the construction means actually.
This is actually, I think it's kind of one of the most important points that people should be talking about. Not easy to change, but I mean, real estate and construction is usually quite an opportunistic project-based business. And that fights against having an industrial business where you can actually make continuous improvement and get rid of waste. But we see, and we have, customers and partners who want to make this change, but it's really a big change in how this whole industry works. It's the biggest industry in the world, real estate and construction. So it's, sometimes it takes a bit of muscle to make the change. But what do you see? I mean, how do you see the kind of the state of adoption and what needs to change in Malaysia in your view?
In the Malaysian perspective, the adoption for IBS per se, we are keep increasing using IBS in Malaysian construction industry. Even though we have a policy on this, we have a two policy on this, right? The number one is the government policy, and the second one is the private policy. The government policy is mandated through the Ministry of Work circular, right? So, for those government project, public project in Malaysia, the amount ringgit Malaysia of 10 million and above, you need to use IBS in that particular project for the building project, and you need to achieve a score. We have a score, 70. Need to achieve a 70 score. What does it mean by the 70 score? 70 score is actually the usage of IBS for that particular project. The usage, how much is the IBS component used for that particular project? So this policy has been established through the circular since 2008, and the adoption for Malaysian market using IBS, based on last year report, is only 92%, if I'm not mistaken, 92 or 93%. So we have remaining about 7 to 8% doesn't comply with this circular, right? So why didn't comply? Because you see that Malaysia is divided into the west region and east region, right? So for state, especially in our east region, right, such as Sabah and Sarawak in Borneo, they found difficulties to using IBS or modular in the construction because they are logistic. This project, especially for government project like school or hospital, is very isolated. So it's very difficult to use IBS in this particular project. That's why they get some exemption from the government not to use IBS for that particular project. Having said that, for the private sector, also we do have a policy on this in Malaysia. the policy said that any private project, building project, for 50,000 meters square gross floor area and 50 million ringgit measure must use IBS for that project. Okay, and also need to achieve 70 score, right? So the adoption it keep increasing. I would say it's about 60% of project in Malaysia comply with this so-called policy from the government. But having said that, too, if you compare the total project in Malaysia, our government project is about represent 30%, right? The private sector represents 70%.
Yeah.
Right. If you combine, then you can get 100%. If you comply for the government project 100% even, you cannot achieve 100% in total overall of the Malaysian construction building project, right? So that is data from for the Malaysian market.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is the Malaysian construction industry must come with the policy. Otherwise, it's quite difficult. Market self-driven by market in Malaysia.
What do you think? Are there specific kinds of projects where the IBS is more popular?
For government project definitely use for school project and hospital project.
Okay.
It's belong government and it's compulsory to use IBS. Okay. For the private sector project, normally for residential project, either landed or strata project, high rise. Using an IBS as well. So, using IBS is not only purposely for residential project, but there are some project, commercial project using IBS as well. Our second tallest building in the world, the KL 118 also using IBS, but it made from a steel structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's talk more about this.
Yeah.
Right. So, maybe. Maybe Mr. Patrik, Dr. Patrik.
Yeah.
How can Malaysia further support the growth of modular construction through policy, training, or industry collaboration? Or perhaps Mr. Tuomas also can answer the question.
Yeah, Patrik,
what do you
can
think?
Go first. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably knows more than me, so it's.
If I look at how it was done in Europe,
Right.
and how basically it was a lot about removing regulation that did it impossible for different material and waste techniques to enter the market, so to speak.
Okay.
For example, 1994, the Eurocode came, where instead of technical requirements that you were not allowed to build wooden buildings over 2 stories, they went into basically setting functional requirements stating that the building has to be standing during fire for 1 hour, etc. And then you could basically add new techniques, and what happened was that since northern countries are very very evolved when it comes to industrialized 2D panel system for single buildings. For over 80% of single buildings in Scandinavia are built off-site in factories. So that's tremendous when you talk about all buildings in Sweden are basically, and they're done in timber. So what happened was that when the regulation disappeared from not building only 2 stories, that whole industry could then evolve to make higher buildings and then basically industrializing also that sector. And now we're up to that around 20% of multi-family buildings are built off-site in factory as 3D volumetric. So that's a huge improvement by just the policy changing or the code change and adapting for functional requirements instead of just hard regulations. That I think is one important part, and then basically helping the industry to evolve and become more efficient is, I could say, it could be a way.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Thomas? What do you think?
First of all, I like this point of making smart regulation, or making regulation with a purpose. So not just controlling like what material you're allowed to use, but more measure outcomes.
Okay. The outcome is,
Because I mean, you asked earlier about the compliance and going into new countries. I think that's probably quite for many modular companies, a source of frustration that you go to a new country. Your system actually is better than what's needed in the country, but they say you can't use this specific kind of product, even though at the end it would be safer and more effective for the customer. So that kind of regulation is always a challenge, in Malaysia and outside of Malaysia. So it's always good for the authorities to focus on kind of productivity and good outcomes. And we see that happening in many places, so that's great. Other areas where support can be put into place. I mean, I think that's obviously everything that supports kind of industrial production and building a good supply chain is good. So we need our supply chain to be having a good life as well. So everything that can be done to kind of prop up investments into manufacturing is good. And then of course the financial sector is an important one, especially when we're talking about the local market. That how do you make sure that the financing of projects is in line with modular construction or prefabricated construction. We had a quick discussion before that traditional construction and financing is based on you claim the loan as you use the money. And you're doing it bit by bit with different contractors, and when you're building off site, it's quite a different cost or cash flow profile for the project. So it's something where the financial institutions often need to relearn their way of working. I think it can be good business for them at the end, but it's something that needs to change. And in many countries, once the financial institutions start to have an appetite for this, then the market actually starts to grow as well. And that's why, for example, the US and UK and Sweden, they are quite successful with modular because the financial markets support that kind of construction as well.
Yeah, when talking about the financial, in terms of cost, because you build a factory in Penang, right? And then your client is most probably in European country or Saudi Arabia, just now you said. You still get a profit in terms of your organization entirely. When you produce the production, the factory, I mean, you build a factory in here, in Penang, you supply back to other country. I mean, you supply to the European country and Saudi Arabia. So you still gain some more profitable rather than you build a factory at that particular country for that particular project.
That's the short answer is yes. Otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. But I mean, the reason I think is that just the kind of first of all, I think the cost level of running a factory here is very, very good. There's a high level of productivity and competitiveness, but also the supply chain. So the scale that we can build here with the supply chain enables that, right? Because if we had a factory in UK and Sweden and Saudi and Australia, everyone's separate, you don't get one place where you're getting all the scale of the supply, and I think that is a really critical factor. And there are not many companies that have tried to have kind of an international footprint from one factory. There's a lot of modular companies that are more regional, and of course then that puts more work on us that we can sell our product to different countries. But then again, on the other hand, we have quite a high scale and diversification, of course, as well. So.
Okay.
But yes, definitely.
Yeah, of course, the answer is yes.
Yes, and I mean, of course, just to build a little bit further, of course, is that as we discussed, I mean, the value drivers in different countries are different, but I mean, especially if you look at the US or Australia or UK, actually Sweden as well, that just the cost of production locally is so high, and they don't have labor to do it.
Oh, really?
UK is a great example that the authorities have actually made quite big promises to how much residential housing will be provided in a certain term. And I mean, with the current rate of construction, it's impossible. They have to accelerate construction. They have promised to do that, but the only way to do it is with increasing offsite production. Just doing it with local labor is impossible.
All right. Okay. Perhaps I want to ask Dr. Patrik, right? Do you see any opportunities for modular construction in addressing the national issues like affordable housing, disaster relief, and rapid urbanization?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
foresee any?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically what all of this is, we need to build fast. We need to, war zones.
Yeah,
When
of course.
a lot of houses has been torn down now. We have Gaza, for example. I would say that to rebuild Gaza in that speed that we need, industrialized house construction is basically the only way. And I would say then it's also 3D volumetric. So basically so that you can prepare everything and then quickly get people houses again. So, and affordable living, of course. There's how come we haven't built it for now?
Yeah.
Too costly.
Yep.
So by industrializing the construction industry, we can lower cost
Okay.
while increasing quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've been into this topic a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
the question is basically quite, it's easy to see that industrialized construction is the way forward to diminish these problems.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Thomas? What do you think?
I mean, frankly speaking, these are. This is not an additional possibility. I think this is actually one of the main value drivers of why we exist, and it's kind of one of the reasons that it's exciting to go to work every day. That it's not just about selling one residential project here and one there. It's about finding out how can we solve these big problems.
Yeah.
And companies like ourselves and hopefully many more can support with that. But it's about, it's really like in these kinds of settings. I mean, the Gaza one's an extreme one, but there are many like that where you need to have somebody who has the kind of end-to-end means that they have a need to rebuild something quickly or to rebuild something new. They have the financing and they have the will to make it happen. And then the only thing that's missing is, okay, who can actually do it? And that's where we come in. I think those are actually really the best place for us to be.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I would say that SIBS is not just a modular manufacturer, but you provide a complete construction ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Combine advancing European engineering, right, with precision manufacturing to deliver high quality, sustainable, and efficient building solution. Right. Yeah.
Well said.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. I think you have last word to say, Mr. Patrik, for our today podcast panel. Maybe some words from your side.
It's we're
What about-
interested to be in this fair that we are now, this conference, and interesting to see how Malaysia is really going forward in this
Modular construction.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So it feels really fun to see this. I've been here traveling to Malaysia since 2017.
All right.
So it's kind of my home.
Your second home.
Second home, exactly. I have my friends here, so it's really nice to see that we are now basically moving into delivering to Malaysia also, not just producing here and exporting.
Right.
That we actually also are creating the possibilities now to build in Malaysia. That I think is really fun, and I would like to that SIBS and we can be in this this new way forward here for Malaysia.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Part of it.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Thomas? Last word from you.
This is just such an amazing and vibrant country with so much energy and activity.
This is the first time you
No,
here?
I've spent now. I have been at SIBS for a little less than a half year. I've spent quite a lot of time in Malaysia now,
Okay, right.
and I'm glad about that. But it's just such a combination of good traits of different economies. So I think that's really cool. And again, we wouldn't be here if there wasn't a great supply chain. And as Patrik said, we've been looking outside of Malaysia. We're going into a lot of new countries now, but definitely looking into Malaysia is quite soon coming. So I don't know if people listening are also at the fair. They can go see our stand. You see the real thing. It's not just talk.
Yes.
There's a real module there. So just very, very grateful that we can be here.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much.
So, the audience, basically we have been talking about this matter or this topic about, I think, more than 1 hour. All right.
Yeah.
So it seems to be we don't have much time. All right. We hope that the audience and for those participants come to the International Construction Week, we gain more experience, more knowledge about SIBS, right? So, and I hope that if there any viewer or audience wanted to get more information about your product or your information more, how you deliver those products into the project site and how you manage to do a production in your line in Penang, perhaps you can visit the website, right?
Yep,
Your
that's a
website
good
is
option,
sibs.se, www.sibs.se,
Yeah.
right? And we also wanted to say a very thank you to SIBS to become a strategic partner, our platinum partner in our BINA ICW 2025, right? And also I would like to thank to Mr. Thomas and Dr. Patrik for become a panelist today, right?
Thank you.
Then to the audience, thank you, and please forward to other podcast series from us, especially on the technology of construction or any method related into the construction technology. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.